Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my stream. We are going to be continuing the Humanality project this evening, and I'm going to be doing some designs that are based on the same principles that I would have started with originally in the Humanality project, but we're going to be expanding from humans into basically anything. So, even though I'm going to mostly be designing like animals, flowers, nature, stuff like that, and maybe some other objects, we're going to use principles that can be applied to just about anything. So hopefully you'll be able to learn something. Hopefully you'll be able to use these principles then to achieve design commonality, consistency, and diversity in just about anything that you design. Okay? So just give me a couple minutes and we will jump right into the actual designing. Now I'm having a small issue with Inkscape in that it is crashing every time I open a file, but hopefully I'll be able to get that fixed shortly. Inkscape can be a little temperamental, not because of the program itself, just because I'm using nightly builds, so I get the newest features. But hopefully that will stop causing an issue this evening, and I'll actually be able to get some work done. If it doesn't work, I'll just start with a fresh document, because I can do that. I just want to make sure that I have some elements from the previous document that I was working on, but if I can't do that, I'll just start fresh and we'll use the same principles anyway. Okay? So I'll get Inkscape on screen shortly, don't worry. In the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the music. I found a channel that allows me to use Afrobeats music. It's actually built by, all of them are done by one person. Creators Lib, free music for content creators. You can find them on YouTube. I'm going to be promoting them and sharing their information on my YouTube channel and on my Twitch videos and everything. So, well, let me just double check, make sure that you're actually able to hear this. Sorry about that. I had my speakers muted so you can actually hear the music. My apologies. That occasionally happens because of my very complex audio setup. You know me, I am very complex and complicated with my stuff, but it usually works. But my apologies. Alright, so I'm going to open a new document in Inkscape because Inkscape is being temperamental today. And I am not going to fight with it to try to open anything. I'm just going to work with a fresh document, and hopefully we should be able to get things going and working properly today. So, another thing, I forgot to share this stream on social media, so let me just do that right away. I did share earlier today that I would be streaming, but I didn't actually share when I went live, so I will do that right away. And if you can, make sure that you always share my streams so you can let everyone, your mom, your dad, your dog, your cat, your fish, everybody, let them know that I'm streaming, because apart from learning, I find that people find these very relaxing. So yeah, share the love. almost ready. Just forgot to type out this link. Alright, we're ready to go. So, as I would have mentioned, we're going to be continuing the Humanality project, which I would have started probably a few months back. And the principles that we're building on are design commonality, design... let me just pull that back up. It's design commonality, design consistency, and design diversity. That is what we're building on. And basically, to show you that you can create with almost anything, I decided to keep what we're using in terms of basic elements or primitives, if you will, down to just circles. So almost everything that you'll see designed in the Humanality project is made from a circle. The only exceptions would be things that we couldn't achieve with an actual circle or an oval as a primitive, and that would be like the nose on the persons that we would have created. But other than that, everything was made from circles. So today I'm actually going to be doing the same thing, but I'm going to be creating other things, as I would have mentioned. So dogs, cats, fish, birds, you know, some natural stuff, flowers, etc., and also possibly some inanimate objects, just to show you how easily you can take these principles and apply them to anything that you're designing. And another thing that we're going to be touching on today is identifying primitives in anything, any real thing. So basically, like, if you look at a flower, you can actually break it down then into smaller pieces, and you can then build something from that. So I'm just going to pull up an actual flower for you and show you how we can identify some primitives in this. I should have remembered, by the way, to install a plugin on GNOME Shell that would allow me to draw on my screen, because those do exist. I just haven't used one in a while, so I didn't remember to do that. Alright, so here we have an actual flower. This is from my mother's garden. Small plug for mum. And if you look at this, you can actually begin to identify primitives that we can then build on. So like the petals, you could actually start with a basic circular shape for these. Obviously, if you're designing something like this, you may not want to do the exact shape. So you could start with something pretty basic, just 5 circles or 5 ovals around the outside, and then another circle in the center here. And then you could add smaller circles for these to hold details around the edges. And these lines, of course, you can identify these as they could be built from rectangles or anything like that. And this central piece here, probably the stamen where the pollen would land, you could also identify this as built from other primitives. So like this piece here that's in pink could be a circle, and then behind that could be an oval. And so basically that's how I would start identifying primitives. As I said, I could install a plugin that would allow me to draw my screen. Actually, let me see. I'm going to do this live on stream, so if anything goes wrong, my apologies. But I'm actually going to see if I have the extension installed that allows me to draw my screen, because this will make life a lot easier. Oh yes, I do actually have it installed, and I have it enabled. I did not remember that, so I just need to remember the shortcut. Alright, so Super D is the shortcut to enter our leaf drawing mode, and that's all I need, I believe. Let's see if this actually works. Okay, yeah, it's on. Alright, there we go. That's what I wanted. So alright, we can actually identify these primitives here, and I can draw them on screen for you. These would be ovals. Don't mind my very poor drawing skills at this point. I'm using the mouse and not the graphics tablet, so not as good as it could be. So let's say we were doing this flower in Inkscape. We could start with 5 primitives, which would be 5 ovals. Then we could add a 6th primitive, which would be the circle here. And then around the edges, we could add these. Let's see how many these are going to come to be. Should be 5, yeah. So that would take us to 11 primitives. Then we have another one here, number 12, 13. And for these lines, of course, you could use rectangles or calligraphic strokes. But yeah, this is how you can start to deconstruct an existing object and build primitives that you can design with. So seeing as we just did that here, let me turn back off drawing mode. I'm going to, oops, did I press the right key? Clearly not. Oh, escape somehow turned off drawing mode, and the shortcut they said to turn it off didn't actually do it. Anyway, that's a side point. I'm actually going to use that same principle now over here to create a flower with the same principles that we would have used before to create human faces. You can't see this circle, by the way, because I don't have the outline on, so let me just turn stroke on. Oh, it is on, it's just not black. Alright, so there we go, that's our first one. Let me pull this back over here so you can see it. I probably should install an extension on Firefox to draw in Firefox, that would be even better. And I should also install a tiling window manager plugin or something for this, I guess. Why can't I put Inkscape on? Oh yeah, I forget Inkscape doesn't like to be resized too much, so it's not going to go to the edge of the screen. My apologies. Alright, let me just hide that for now. So since we know that there are 5 of these, I don't need to draw them again. I can just duplicate and rotate. And you'll notice, by the way, as I said, I'm using a nightly build of Inkscape, so now I can actually position these things a lot more easily just by dragging. I believe in Adobe Illustrator it works the same way. So Inkscape is actually stepping up its game a little bit, becoming a little more competitive, if you will. Alright, I'm going to rotate this one, put it over here. By the way, when I duplicate, I press Control D on the keyboard, and that's how you create copies of objects in Inkscape. You can also right click and duplicate from the menu, from the context menu, but I typically don't tend to do that. Too much work. Now it's pretty cool that we have these align handles in Inkscape now, so I can actually align these objects to each other a lot more easily. I really love that, and it will help with realism and recreating natural elements as well. So that's really cool. Alright, so I'm going to draw now the central part of this flower with a circle like this. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle in terms of, you know, that the radii are equal. You can put it at whatever size and whatever dimensions work best for what you're trying to design. Alright, so let me just move these in closer now. This one could probably be resized a bit. Now, I'm not trying to exactly replicate what I have over here, by the way. I'm just using it as a basic guideline so that we get some relatively natural designs today. But I'm not doing an exact replication of what you can see. Alright, that looks pretty good there. And now what I'm going to do is actually combine all of these. So select all of them and then go to Path Union, and now they're all joined together. Now what I want to do, as I would have said, we identified that there are some primitives around the edges. Oops. Oh wait, it still has all this on screen. I don't want all this. Let's try that again. Alright, I need to figure out these shortcuts because I have not used this extension in a while, so let me just double check what they are. Alright, Alt Super E is how you clear the that's how you clear the screen, so let me try that. And when I turn this back on, I should not see anything on the screen. It doesn't seem to want to turn on though. Yeah, this extension is a little strange. Doesn't work consistently, so I'll just leave that out. I was going to draw them again, but we can ignore that. So as I told you, there are some primitives around the edges here, some smaller ovals, so I'll reuse those for this particular object over here that we're creating, this flower. And I'm gonna put one each on each petal. I don't know why I said petal. It's not a petal, it's not a car. You can't drive a flower. I mean, if you can drive a flower, good for you, but I can't drive a flower, so I don't know why I said petal there just now. I need to pay somebody, not literally, but I need to get somebody to clip my videos while I'm streaming, because I say some funny things sometimes and they should be kept for all eternity instead of just going on the stream and being thrown over onto YouTube. We should have some record of this stuff. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate the one in the center here, resize it so that it touches the edges of each of these. And as I always say, there's a method to my madness. It's organized chaos. Alright, so let me just make sure that this is sitting almost exactly in the center of these here. I'm holding shift, by the way, so that it doesn't align to anything automatically. Alright, that looks relatively good there. Good. Let me just resize this a little bit. I need to lock these. I need to lock the width and height so I can resize it exactly as I want. Alright, good. There we go. Move this, not you. Right. It keeps selecting the wrong thing, so I have to zoom in. Alright, let me try this now. There we go. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to recreate the look that is on the flower where the yellow meets the pink. So you'll see that it kind of blends into the pink, kind of. So I'm going to recreate that by joining all these objects together as one. But we're not actually putting color on them this time around, even though I will eventually get around to putting color on things in the Humanality project. That's not for today. Alright, now we're going to do a union, and there you go. Now I'm going to move this down, resize it a bit. And the next step, of course, is to use Simplify, which is Control L on your keyboard. Sometimes you may have to undo some of the simplification that you did if you want it to be not too simplified, or you may even have to go in and manually edit some nodes. I'm not going to overdo it today, obviously, because I'm just demonstrating the principles and not trying to make something perfect. But basically, I just want to remove these extraneous nodes that are internal. So why can't I deselect? Thank you. There we go. Right, so we're just removing those internal nodes. These can stay, but what I'll actually do is probably combine them as one. And right, there we go. That should give me the effect that I'm looking for, so that there's nothing looking weird and stuff inside of there. Alright. Now I'm not going to overdo it in terms of trying to get the curved edges and all that stuff on here. We're just doing the basics to try to produce something according to the principles that we would have started with in the Humanality project. So let me just show you again what those faces look like. This is one here, and here's another one. I'm not going to open them in Inkscape because Inkscape is crashing when I open stuff, and that, as I said, is just because I'm using a nightly build, so things occasionally get a little unstable from revision to revision. But that's not a big deal because I can usually work around it. Just that I don't feel like working around it on stream, obviously. That would be too much work. So just showing you from here, these are what some of the faces look like. I could probably open them in another program too and let you see them, but you get the point. There are some circles making up basically everything, and we're using that principle for what we're creating today. Let me just resize this thing inside, and what I'm actually going to do is use some more circles around this now to give it kind of like an edge on each of the petals that looks like it's curving into them or blending into them in a way. Not so big. Alright, let me duplicate this one. Oops, wrong one. Again, for those of you who don't know, I'm using some Afrobeats music today from a channel called Creators Lib on YouTube. They produce some really nice music. I really love it. So from now on, for the most part at least, that's the music that I'll be using on my streams. So you can check them out on YouTube. I'll have links to their channel in my YouTube video description, and also on the description of this video on my Twitch channel when it is actually finished. Alright, I think everything is aligned nicely here. So now what I'm going to do is select all of these circles and combine them. Right, and then simplify like I would have done before to give it a somewhat natural look. Resize this a bit. And now let me just adjust the stroke size on all of these because it's quite big. Just doing some minor adjustments here. Now as for these, as I said, I'm not going to do as much detail as I can, but what I'm going to just do is, as I would have identified that inside of each petal there is like a vein or something, I'm going to just add those, and I'm actually going to use the graphics tablet for that. So we're going to break out of the basic rule that we have, which is that everything uses circles, just like how we did with the noses on the people that we designed. We're going to break out of the standard rule of everything being a circle and do some actual calligraphic strokes for those veins. Why is the tablet not moving? I don't know why the tablet isn't moving. Let me see if I have to unplug and plug back in. Should be working. Oh, there we go. Now it wants to work. Sometimes it has a mind of its own. Alright, let's try this. Simple. I need to make this a little thicker actually. It should do it. So some simple strokes like this. It's too long. Oops. I tend to do things like strokes and stuff a bit quickly, so sometimes I move a little too far. Alright. That should do it for those, and we're going to select all of them and simplify at once. And then just move them into place wherever you need them to be. Simplifying this one a little more than the others because it's a little more complicated. take a look at the flower again, see if there are anything. Oh yes, there is one more thing that I wanted to add in the center, which was the stamen. And like I said, there was a circle and then an oval. So oops, let me try that again. Right, there we go, that's the circle, and then we'll have an oval. Let me just move this down. Oops, not rotate, wrong button. Alright, there we go, that's in position now, I believe. Can rotate this just a little bit and move it down. I'll also resize it a little bit, and alright, what I'm going to do now is convert this to a path and move this node here down a little so that it can hide behind the circle. And then we are going to combine these to the circle and the oval. This node can come out, as well as this node over here. I keep selecting 2 by accident. Let me just, oops, my bad. I was trying to zoom in there just now and I actually did the wrong thing. So, alright, there we go. Right. Sometimes you have to try not to move too quickly because the computer interprets what you're doing as something completely different. Okay, so we got that. I'm gonna move this into the position where it needs to be, which is like around here or so. And you'll notice that it's sticking out from in here because obviously it is above this other object. So how we're going to fix that is by turning on the stroke paint as a gradient and then editing the gradient. And you'll notice that Inkscape now has an updated interface for editing gradients, which I really love, in the new nightly build. So the next version of Inkscape, like I would have mentioned on Twitter, is going to be a whole lot better and a whole lot easier to use than before. So let me flip that. And from the node editor now, I'm going to move this gradient around until I have it in the exact position that I need it to be in. Let me turn off snapping tool so that it doesn't annoy me right now. I need to move this up just a little bit. Alright, almost there. This can be a little tricky to get right, so I'm just going to do it at least in an average sense, and that should be good. Yeah, so there we go. Now of course I did not try to do the exact flower that we saw in the picture. I just basically tried to create something roughly like it using the same principles that we would have used in creating those faces that we did. And as you can see, it's relatively close. It's obviously not the same exact thing, but we have a rough idea that this is a desert rose, obviously. So that's how you would do it. And one last thing, let me just combine everything as a group. Center this on the page. Resize it. And I'm going to add a shadow. Now normally when I add shadows in the Humanality project, I use a circle and I'll have one shadow. In this case I'll have multiple shadows because there are multiple points that touch the bottom. So I'm going to put 2 shadows, but they're not going to be of the same size because we want to give it the impression of light coming from an angle. So I'm going to put one shadow that's larger on this side and then a smaller shadow on this side. Plus apart from the light coming from an angle, there's the fact that the petals are of different sizes as well and different shapes. So you want to keep mindful of that and recreate that in the design that you're producing. And since I can't open the original document today, just an Inkscape being a little temperamental, I'm just going to do something rough in terms of the shadows. I'm not exactly replicating the same values I would have used in the previous designs, but I will probably get back to that in future and make sure that everything is perfectly arranged so that we have exact consistency throughout the entire project. Alright, so if those shadows in place, well, let me turn up the blurring on this one a bit and the opacity. I like to keep my numbers consistent as well, even though your brain can't necessarily differentiate at all times. I still like to keep those things consistent. My personal belief, my personal understanding from what I know is that your brain is differentiating, just not consciously. So I like to keep those things pretty consistent. Just making sure that this is exactly opaque because I was seeing the shadow showing through there a little bit. Now the last thing I want to do is, just like I would have done in the actual Humanality project, I'm going to, oops, wrong place. I'm supposed to be under stroke paint. Oh, I see what happened there. So let me deselect this piece in here. Okay, wait, I'm missing a few pieces. Just need to make sure I have everything selected that I need selected. Right, there we go. Right, what I would have done with the faces is that I actually had a duplicate of them that is just stroke painted and not filled, and then those had a slight blur on them as well with a gradient. So I'm gonna duplicate everything here, do a union, and then add a gradient stroke on them and turn up the blur a bit. Again, this is not exactly according to the same values that I originally used. It's just using the same principles because I don't have the original file open right now to see what those values were. But even though I don't have that, I can still look back at the original. Let me just show you here. You can probably see, I'm not sure how clear it will be on your screen. Maybe if you put it full screen, you should be able to see those blurs on. But I have some slight blurs around the edges of the face. You should be able to see that on your screen. Right, so that's what I'm trying to replicate in this flower here. Obviously don't want to overdo it too much, but still want it to be consistent with what we originally designed. And in fact, this is a side note, but it's actually a good thing that Inkscape is not allowing me to open the original files today, because it forces me to have to use another element of design, which is being able to look at an existing project or an existing design and identify certain elements of it, certain principles that were used, and replicate them. So like take for instance, you'll notice that there are trends like flat design, etc., and then out of that you have sub-trends that tend to develop. What is happening a lot there is that you have designers looking at what other designers have done. Like say you have a popular designer whose idea takes off, and then other designers will look at their work, identify what makes it tick, if you will, and they replicate that in their own designs, and it keeps going from there till you have a global trend. So basically what I'm doing today is showing you how to do that same thing with your own designs, and basically you can become a trendsetter if you want to. Alright, so I think this is good enough. This internal piece here, let me just turn on the stroke on this. I think that's good enough there, so I will group everything again and make sure everything is centered, and then I will move this layer, well, turn off this layer, sorry. Let me move these to the bottom. Well, to number 2 really, because there should be a blank background behind here, blank white background. I didn't do that today, I forgot to do that part. Alright, so let's rename this to flower and move on to the next design. Now before the stream today I did some experimentation so I could figure out the method that I was going to use to design this stuff. So the next thing I'm going to do is the first one I would have started with in my practice today, and that is a dog. So obviously the Humanality project, one of the things that we have in place, one of the elements we have in place is that things look kind of cartoonish. We're not aiming for exact realism. So in that sense, we're not going to try to aim for exact realism in terms of the next design either. Just laying that on the table so you know. So let's start with a circle as usual. Right, and then we're going to add another circle, so duplicate this one and move it down. Let me turn back on snapping so I can align things perfectly. Right, there we go. And then we're gonna move it, well, resize this a little bit out to the sides. Bring it down to about here or so. Then we're gonna duplicate this one, resize it this way now. Rotate it like this. Then duplicate that, flip it, and move it to the side. Then we're going to group these two, move them in the back. Now this should already begin to take shape as some kind of a rough idea of a dog, right? At least it should look like a dog in your mind by now. Actually, let me add another circle in between here and resize it. Give it some more shape around this area. Not to worry, this is not the nose. I know it looks like if we have a dog that is zoomed right in on the nose, that's not what we're aiming for in this instance. I'll explain the method to my madness shortly. So these 3 circles here are going to be combined into one. So union on those, and then we're going to go into the node editor, combine these. Let me see which ones I'm going to be taking. I'm probably going to leave these in place. Let me see if I take these out how it looks. Yeah, good. There we go. So I'm going to put these to auto smooth. Actually, let me leave them as they were, because I think they'll work just fine as they are. Yeah, they'll work perfectly like that. Alright, so we have the basic shape of the dog's head. Now we're going to add the nose, which again is just a circle. Making sure to center everything on the page now as well. And then the eyes will be circles again. Just duplicate this and move it across here. Group the eyes and make sure they're centered on the page. Inkscape is actually doing that for me already, but I just need to get accustomed to the fact that newer builds of Inkscape allow me to do that. So I don't have to stop and align everything over and over again. It saves me a tiny bit of extra time, but those tiny steps add up. Now we have 2 options here. We can either have the dog have dark eyes like this and then put white inside of the eyes for detail. So let me just demonstrate that. You can have it like this, or you can do the reverse. So you can have a white eye with a black pupil inside. I'm not gonna leave it with both, by the way. Just letting you know you have options, and either option works, because if you look at the original design of the human for the Humanality project, you'll see that I have a similar thing. So you have a plain colored eye with just a highlight inside. I do have some other options that I could show you, but I'd have to pull them up from my file manager. Actually, you know what, let me do that, because it's easier if I actually display them. So just give me a second here, let me pull them up. In the meantime, enjoy the music, which, as I mentioned earlier, for those who don't know, is from Creators Lib on YouTube. They produce some really cool Afro beats, and I'm going to be using their music for the most part in future streams. Almost there in terms of pulling up this these alternative faces. Just have to go through a few folders. Alright, here we are. I'm not sure how visible they will be on your screen. Let me see if I can zoom in any further. No, that's as big as we can get. So yeah, these are the faces that we have. Most of the eyes are pretty similar so far, but I did have some other options, I believe, for the eyes, like when they're excited, etc. So let me see if I have them saved in here. Oh, I did not. I thought I did. So all of this was still a waste. I did not plan that part to show you the options, by the way, so my apologies that they're not there, but they are saved in the original file that has all the options on different layers. I'll probably have to do that in another stream and show you them again, but they're there, just so you know. But yeah, in any case, as I was saying, you can either use a plain black eye with a white circle inside, or you can use a white eye with a black circle inside for the pupil. I'll do the black eye with a white circle today to keep him in lockstep with the face that I would have on the concepts screen, basically, which is this here. Alright, so what I'm going to do, instead of using just a plain circle, I'm going to recreate the highlight that we have from before. Let me just turn off stroke on this because I don't need it. Right, and what I do is I just put this to obscure part of the other circle, then select that and use difference. That's too much got taken up just now. Let me make sure that stroke is off on this one too. Yeah, stroke was on, so it didn't work exactly as it should. Let's try that again. Right, there we go. Perfect. So now I can delete this, group these, oops, group these and duplicate, and then just move them across to there. This circle I'm actually going to reuse for nostrils. The nose is going to be black, by the way, so this is going to have to be made white instead of black. Oops, stroke paint should not be on. Let me turn that off. Oops. meant to select just now, not drag. By the way, if you hear any random screaming children in the house, not me. Nothing's wrong. No one is getting hurt. They're just very excited for whatever reason. Alright, so let me group these and make sure they're in the center of the page. Yeah, they already are. It's gonna take some getting used to with that, even though it's cool. It's still gonna take some getting used to the fact that Inkscape is as cool as it is now. Feels like a whole new program. Alright, so let's draw a mouth now. Obviously we don't want this big gaping mouth here, so we're going to duplicate this, turn it red so we can actually see what we're doing, and move it up. Resize it a bit. Can take some tweaking sometimes to get the exact image that you want, or the effect that you want. And then, alright, now we have that in place. Use difference, and there you go, there's the dog's mouth. And then we can resize this as we want to give it different expressions, etc. And there you have it. There is a dog designed according to the same principles that I would have started with for the faces, the human faces that I did. Now for this nose, of course, these nostrils look a little big, so I want to modify these a bit. Let me delete this. Great. Much better. Now if you want, and you want it to keep similarity between the eyes and the nose, you could remove these all together. So let me delete them and then ungroup this, duplicate the highlight from the eye and move it down to the nose. Then we can skew it a bit. Oops, that was an accident. My mouse got a little bit carried away just now. Right, and that's one of the ways that you can do this, so that you now have a highlight on the nose to make it look a little shiny. I'm not going to do a dog's tongue hanging out today. I could do that, but not going to bother this time around. What I'm going to do instead is just adjust the stroke so that we have something that looks more or less like what we did for the human faces. I'm going to turn this down. Oops. I'm going to adjust the color a bit. Duplicate it. Turn off the fill. Turn on a gradient in the stroke and then blur it. Let me turn this up a bit so it's actually visible. I need to know what I'm working with here. Sometimes you have to do a lot of adjustments until you get the exact result you want. That looks like it should do the trick. Press the wrong keys there just now. Okay, I think that should be that for the dog. I'm not going to do too much more on it because obviously this is just to give you a basic rundown of the basics behind it. This could be tweaked in future when I can actually open the original files and get the correct values for strokes and all that stuff. So for now I think this is pretty good. Let me just group everything together, resize it a bit, put it in the center of the page, and then I can turn this layer off and start the next thing. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do a cat. The cat was a little more complicated when I did a trial run of it, because cats are just complicated creatures in general. It wasn't actually that hard to do, so maybe the next stream that I do on the Humanality project, I'll continue this and show you how to do the cat. It just is, it's not hard, but it is complicated because it has more steps involved in it. So that's what I'll probably do that time around. Wait, did I just duplicate this layer? I didn't even realize. Alright, let me add a new layer, not duplicate. So for an inanimate object, let me see, what should I go with? Something that's completely not alive. Sometimes decision making is hard, isn't it? And I didn't actually have a plan for what I was going to use for the inanimate object, so you know what I'm going to do? A simple cup. This is probably one of the easiest things to do, but we're of course still using design commonality and design consistency. So we start with 2 circles, and instead of adding, normally I would add a rectangle, but we're using circles again. I'm going to actually draw a circle. Oops. I'm going to draw a circle from over here. You just make sure and get this to the right point that I want it at. I'm actually giving myself a challenge in this particular instance. Right, there we go. Let me duplicate this and move it to the other end. Now I'm going to duplicate everything that I have here and move them off to the side. And I'll explain why shortly. After doing that, I'm going to combine these two. This one, let me see. I'm kind of weighing it here because I've never actually tested this particular design. No, so let me not combine the 2 of those. Actually, what I will do is use difference. No, not on that one. Which one you select, I think, is what makes the difference here. So let me just try. Is it exclusion? No, that's not gonna work. I had an idea in mind, but it's not coming out like I wanted, but I'm still gonna try to make this work. Because basically what I want to do is use these edges here to create the size of the cut. This part will be the top, and this will be the bottom. But I'm trying to find a way to simplify this, because there's a somewhat straightforward way to do this, but it's not necessarily the most simple way to do it. I'll probably just have to use the method that's more or less straightforward. So let me delete these. Right. Or if I don't need to delete them, I can just move them downward. It's gonna change the curvature probably a little bit. Yep, it did. Figured it would. The reason I duplicated these over here is so that we can reuse them when we need to, by the way. Because sometimes even after combining certain elements, we need to reuse them, so that's why I put those over there. And if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing, not really. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing, it's just that I'm kind of winging this particular design without any practice so that I can kind of figure it out as we go. But I'm still trying to use the same principles that I would have used for designing everything else, which is that we're using circles as our primitives and we're building up from there. Alright, this part here is going to be a little bit tricky. Let me see if I can actually keep the circle. Alright, yeah, this should be able to work. Just need to resize this and move it slightly. Yeah, there we go. So the real trick is the top. So what I'll probably need to do is actually duplicate this and then resize it. Let's see if that works. And then if I combine these, I should be able to get something out of them that still gives me what I'm looking for. I think so, at least. This is one of those kids don't try this at home kind of moments, because like I said, I'm winging this design. I wouldn't tell you to follow this particular principle for this one until I'm done and I actually figure out where I'm going with it. But you're getting a little bit of insight into the behind the scenes aspects of design, which is, for me personally, that's one of the things I like most about my streams, is that I give you more than just straightforward, hey, this is how to design this is how to design that. I'm giving you actual insight into the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, everything. I try to give you a full-fledged insight into everything. Couldn't find the word just now. Alright, let me just make sure that these are aligned correct. Oops. Inkscape just went off to somewhere. I have no clue. Oops, I just dragged the wrong window there. I have no clue what is up with Inkscape, but Inkscape just decided to disappear on me. I'm not sure if it just updated itself, but it does seem so, because when it says new in the menu, it usually means that, oh no, yeah, it did say new before I opened it, but it removed it now. When it says new in the menu, it means that the snap has been updated. So it is possible that Inkscape tried to read some library or something from its own snap folder and decided to crash. That was not planned, but stranger things have happened. This is what happens when you use pre-release software, which I technically shouldn't do, but I am a stickler for new features, so I like to be on the cutting edge. Alright, so we'll forget the cup for now. I'll probably try something a little more straightforward if I can think of it. Actually, let me see if I can design a bicycle. I owe someone a motorcycle on stream. I have not forgotten. I just haven't done it yet, but I will actually try drawing a bicycle this time around, using the same principles that we would have started with for the Humanality project. So let's see if I can do this quickly and then close out this stream. So we're going to start with the wheels, of course. body of this bicycle now. I'm gonna put a piece here. And a little piece here. So coming down like this. And one up here. You duplicate this, move it behind here. Using another of my principles I often mention, which is stacking simplicity. So we're just stacking circles on top of one another at this point, and it kind of looks like you're doing something random, but there's always method to the madness. Alright, so this can serve as a bicycle seat over here. For the handlebars, I'm going to put some relatively small circles like around there. You've probably noticed that not everything is literally a circle. Some are ovals, some are slightly out of shape. The reason why I start with circles as primitives though is because how you can keep consistency and commonality is that by starting with the same primitives and building off of those, you avoid introducing other, I don't want to say elements, but you avoid introducing a different direction to your design. So you keep your primitives the same, and then you build on there, build on there, build on there, and as you start that simplicity, you end up with something that remains consistent throughout. So like similar angles and, you know, similar elements and stuff, everything remains pretty consistent. This. I use a new circle. Right, so let's actually turn this into something useful now. First thing, combine these three. Move this back this way. Good. That should be perfect there. Let me add another circle over here. By using Auto Smooth for this particular node, I don't have to sit down and play around with any values or any positions. It will just put everything in places I want it to be. just deleting unnecessary nodes to straighten things up a bit. The reason I'm deleting sometimes at corners is because that gives you a smoother result when you're done. So I'm going to just get rid of the excess nodes from those areas and let the curvature do the rest of me. Oops, didn't mean to do that. A smaller circle here to even things out a bit. Now this is obviously not the best looking bicycle in the world, but it's beginning to look like a bicycle at least. Good enough for me. I won't go any further in terms of designing on this. I will just adjust the stroke paint on them. But basically you can see from what I did just now how you can build from one primitive. I didn't use any other things on this but circles, and still we were able to achieve something roughly similar to an actual real life bicycle. Obviously not the best looking bicycle, but hey, it's a bicycle. You can recognize it, you can see what it is, and if I wanted to tweak this and tweak this and tweak it, I could make something that looks even cooler, and all I did was use circles. So consistency is kept in place. Humanality is kept in place in that they're still the same basic elements building up the object that we're working with, and diversity was achieved in that I was able to do a flower, a dog, and a bicycle, and I also have a whole bunch of human faces. So as I continue in the Humanality project, I'll continue to build more stuff like this and add some complexity. Eventually we'll probably add some of these things together, add some color, you know, different stuff like that. But what I also want to do is to show you how to apply some of the same principles that we would have developed in the Humanality project to other areas of design. So not just basic design using like primitives, but actual like web design and stuff like that. I'm going to actually build a very simple CSS framework that uses similar colors and concepts and stuff, even the shadows and everything. I'll try to keep consistent, but just give me some time. I have to sit and write some stuff out and plan some stuff for that. But yeah, we will get to that. In my next stream next week, I'm going to be doing some CSS animations. So if that's your kind of thing, make sure you come back next week, because I'm going to be continuing working on a CSS animation library that I started probably about a month or two ago, called Amoeba. And I also am going to redesign the logo for that, because it's kind of done in a haste and I didn't like it as much, so I want to get back to that. But until next time, I am Roland Taylor, aka Roland Dixor. You can find me on Twitch. Obviously, you're watching here on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Roland Dixor. You can find me on Twitter, same handle. You can find me on Facebook, but I'm not there that often, just in case that's your thing. Or if you phone me from Facebook, you can follow me there, or add me as a friend, or whatever you want to do. Yeah, and until next time, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like the music. Check them out on YouTube, Creators Lib. They have some really, really cool Afrobeats music that I'll be using in the near future. Also, make sure you check out my stores on Redbubble and on Teespring, which should be teespring.com/Roland Dixor. You can get some really cool wallpapers from there. You can get clothes, you can get cups, you can get merchandise, you can get hats, you can get whatever you want, except for me, because I'm not for sale. I'm already taken. So yeah, until next time, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week.